Life moves through stages for every human being. When we are young, we are cared for by those around us. When we grow up, we must face life and begin caring for the people around us. And when we grow old, slowly approaching the end of life, we once again live relying on others. At each stage, there is a turning point that completely changes how a person sees life compared to before. That turning point is called maturity. A young woman stepping into university, living away from her family for the first time, and learning to take care of her own life. That is called maturity. A young man who has just graduated, applying for his first job, beginning to struggle in life, and figuring out how to earn enough money to cover rent, food, and send money back home to his parents. That is called maturity. A man entering retirement, facing a life without the workplace, and slowly learning how to spend time with his grandchildren, that too is called maturity. Because everyone's living environment, circumstances, and conditions are different, the stages of life for each person are also very different. Someone who has to step into society and earn money from the age of 18 will certainly have a different moment of maturity than someone whose family supports them through proper education. At 22, a person who stumbles at 30 and still worries about which company they will send their resume to tomorrow will understand life more deeply than someone who remains stable at 30. Therefore, maturity differs for each person, both in timing and in intensity. However, there is a widespread misconception that many people take for granted, that time, or more precisely, age, determines maturity. People believe that maturity arrives gradually, drawing closer at certain milestones in life. Age 18, when you enter university. Age 22, when you leave school and start earning money. Age 30, when you begin building your own career. People believe that humans slowly learn to mature over time, but that is a mistake. Human beings do not mature gradually. They mature suddenly, often having to pay a price through shock and hardship. Only shocks, failures, or a deep enough realization can transform a person's way of thinking and bring them into maturity. You cannot understand the cost of sacrifice until you have lived for someone other than yourself. You cannot understand the value of money until you have bled and cried for it. You cannot truly cherish the people around you until you have once lost their care. All maturity, all psychological and mental transformation comes from turning points in life, and you must experience them yourself. No one can teach you how to mature if you have never stumbled. No one can give you understanding if you have never collapsed. Early maturity comes with loss. Now, let us talk about another aspect of maturity. What does it truly mean to be mature? Is caring for others and knowing how to sacrifice enough to be called maturity? I will not rush to a conclusion. Let us continue. Children who are obedient, well-behaved, and understanding may appear to mature early, but in reality, they often mature later. If a person lacks a sense of security in childhood and is naturally sensitive, they may develop the ability to observe others and predict situations very early. From a young age, they can sense whether others like them or not, how others feel about them, and then adjust their behavior accordingly. Because they mature too early, they easily hand over their self-worth to the judgment of others and become people-pleasers who work for free. These people avoid conflict, try to satisfy others while neglecting themselves, and dare not express their own values or opinions for fear of being judged. As a result, they lack independent thinking and an autonomous outlook on life. They easily drain their inner energy and lack the strength to build their own value system. They do not dare to try new things, break boundaries, or live a life that is not repetitive. More dangerously, this leads to shyness, fear of communication, fear of trying new things, and fear of change. They are good children in the eyes of parents and relatives, but because they learned too early to read faces and act accordingly, they lost the chance to explore the real world, lacking real-life experience and even the chance to make mistakes. They may be intelligent and able to analyze other people's relationships clearly, yet they themselves, even in their 30s or beyond, may not dare to approach the opposite sex, never taking a single step forward or reaching out to touch anyone. They fundamentally do not know how, and do not dare, to love. There are also children who are less sensitive. In return, they gain courage. Perhaps because of thick skin and boldness, they dare to try more, love more, and take initiative. They do not need to suffer inwardly or drown in emotion to pursue correctly. Some people labeled as early mature still live in dreams or fall into despair after gaining and then losing something. They may be good at analysis and rich in inner emotions, yet they fear change, fear failure, and fear ridicule and humiliation. Their minds are filled with theories about how the world works, but their real-world experience is scarce, and their understanding of society is extremely limited. They are intelligent children, but both their knowledge and their actions are minimal. Early over-awakening of the nervous system becomes a burden and a curse, making it difficult for them to move forward. Like a child forced into rigid molds too early, they seem to know everything, but in reality know nothing and can do nothing. They may appear wise, but are actually very immature. Therefore, maturity does not mean obedience, endurance, or sacrifice, nor does it mean being polished, tactful, or composed. Maturity is simply a shift in thinking and the formation of personal awareness after each turning point in life. On the contrary, children who develop more slowly, with thicker skin and greater honesty, who live openly without shame and dare to charge forward without fear, accumulate rich real-world experience. At the same age, they become hundreds of times more diverse than those labeled as early mature, and leave them far behind. Those who appear to mature early are like grand pavilions and towers covered in fog. They use that fog to shield themselves from the impact of reality, seeking inward safety and a form of self-indulgent suffering. But when you lift the fog and step inside, you discover only an unfinished, ordinary structure. True maturity is something you must build yourself, brick by brick, stone by stone, remaining steadfast with every step and acting without regard for the judgment of others. Many people want to reach the destination in a single step, or insist on taking only one road, one vehicle, to get there. Even when they face obstacles, they refuse to change direction. Even when they face difficulties, they do not dare to change their means. People who endure passively like this are not mature. Those who are truly mature dare to break through, dare to act, dare to bear the consequences, dare to change, and dare to confront mistakes and challenges. When they overcome the fear of failure and the fear of pain, they mature from the very mud of their past. The sign of immaturity is the disease of procrastination. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll look into it next month. I'll try something new next year. I'll start dating in 1 or 2 years. I'll wait, and so on, endlessly. They always want a perfect state before they begin. Or, if they are not completely certain of a perfect method, they dare not do anything at all. Therefore, there are only 2 pieces of advice for you. First, life is inherently uncertain. There is no feast prepared for you that you can eat without entering the kitchen and tasting it yourself. To put it bluntly, life is always waiting to devour you and push you into the mud. At its core, the world is built on limited resources. That leads to limited jobs and limited opportunities. Therefore, there is no reward for those who are obedient but do not know how to fight. We are all surviving in a crowded society where nothing is guaranteed or stable. Everything requires constant adaptation, constant change, constant transformation. Only when you fully accept the uncertainty of this society and adapt to it, becoming more proactive, more flexible, and stronger, will maturity naturally come to you. Second, life is always a dynamic process. All things change unpredictably. Nothing is permanent. Just because you were bad at English in middle school, does that mean you can never learn it again for the rest of your life? Many people force upon you the idea that, if something does not suit you, it will never suit you. They tell you to find only what fits you, to study it, do it, try it. That type of thinking is emotional and shallow, failing to understand that the essence of life is constant change. Jack Ma once ranked 19th, behind 18 others selected when applying for a job at KFC. He once did not know a single word of English, yet every day he rode his bicycle 20 kilometers to sit in a hotel frequented by foreigners just to learn how to communicate in English. When he was young, no one ever said Jack Ma could become a billionaire, with poor academic performance, an unimpressive mind, and an unattractive appearance. When he started Alibaba, very few believed he would succeed, when the internet in China was still a luxury, and the concept of e-commerce was extremely vague. In the end, we do not need to mature for others, nor do we need to live by reading other people's faces. We must look honestly at our own problems, correct ourselves, focus on ourselves, and continuously cultivate our moral character. Through that process, we gradually mature and develop real capability. Everything else is merely a mold meant to restrain you. Therefore, learning the wrong things from the wrong people is worse than taking the wrong medicine. Do not try to please others. There is a truth that is painful but undeniable. Feed a dog for 3 days and it will remember you for 3 years. Stay with a human being for 3 years and they may need only 3 days to forget you. You may have bought them bags, given them money, cooked for them, cared for them in comfort. Yet a single misunderstanding can make everything collapse as if it never existed. That is because so-called affection, spoken from people's mouths, is merely a part of emotion. And emotion is unstable, fragile, and ready to turn its back through tears. Therefore, never be foolish enough to satisfy every need of anyone. The essence of pleasing others is giving away what you consider precious too easily, and the result is that they do not cherish it. You exhaust your energy for them, you try to save them, while they do not even bother to save themselves. To understand human nature, you must understand this brutal formula. 100 minus 1 can equal 0, and 0.1 plus 1 can equal 100. The formula of life is completely different from mathematical formulas. The formula of emotion is also completely different from the formula of morality. If you give a beggar 10,000 every day, and one day you give only 1,000, he will curse you behind your back. But if you usually give him only 100, and suddenly one day give him 10,000, he will shed tears and bow his head in gratitude, thanking even your relatives in your company. That is how human hearts work. And if you do not understand that cold-blooded formula, you cannot truly understand human nature. Helping others is a virtue, but not everyone deserves your kindness. There is a saying, rescue emergencies, not poverty, because poverty often originates from the mind and the way of thinking. A person with a corrupted character will inevitably waste your kindness, and sooner or later, they will leave you feeling chilled to the bone. In Romance of the Three Kingdoms, no matter how generously Dong Zhuo treated Lu Bu, giving him the finest warhorse, red hair, appointing him Grand General, placing armies under his command, and favoring him in every possible way, all it took was one woman, Jiao Chan, for Lu Bu to strike and kill Dong Zhuo in a single blow. By contrast, Liu Bei only once threw his own child to the ground before Zhao Zilong, and that mighty general was willing to die for Liu Bei. Kindness, when given to the right person, is light. But when you give your heart to the wrong person, it is no different from carrying their karma upon yourself. Kindness without principles is a fire that burns you alive. You think you are helping, but in reality, you are absorbing disasters from others and placing them upon your own head. There are people with twisted, darkened characters. When you help them, they are not grateful. They lift their heads in contempt and laugh behind your back. Deep down, they may even envy your circumstances, believing you are easygoing, easy to deceive, and easy to demand from. The label of being a good person is a sweet trap. When someone calls you good, in truth, they are extracting benefits from you, using sweet words to keep you numb so they can drain even more. The cruel truth is this: human beings should not help anyone unconditionally. Living well for yourself and holding firm boundaries, that is the highest principle. A person who does not act for themselves is destroyed by heaven and earth. Do not be a good person without conditions. But that does not mean you should do evil. It means that much of the good you have done was simply foolishness disguised as morality. A truly good person is a noble one, someone who knows limits, has principles, knows when to be firm, and knows whom to trust. Many people live exhausted and resentful because they force themselves into the mold of a perfectly good person. In the eyes of others, they always place other people's needs first, discard their own emotions, and even allow themselves to be trampled, as long as they do not offend anyone. In psychology, this type of person is called a people pleaser. They make two fatal mistakes. The first mistake is believing that if they are good to others, others will be good in return. They give with expectations, and when those expectations are not met, they continue to punish themselves, believing they are not good enough, and give even more. The greater the expectation, the deeper the disappointment. Remember this: when you help someone, do not expect repayment. Just like lending money, consider it gone the moment you hand it over. Do not test human nature, or you will be the one struck by its backlash. The second mistake is believing that giving endlessly will preserve relationships. Yes, maintaining relationships requires patience and giving, but only when there is reciprocity. If the other person does not respond, your giving is not only meaningless, it destroys everything. To be blunt, the one who gives more is the weaker one. The more you give, the more you lower yourself. Because you are devaluing yourself, your costs increase, and your sunk costs grow heavier by the day. Eventually, when you want to leave, you hesitate, you suffer, you regret, and you become trapped. Meanwhile, the other person can kick you away like a worn-out sandal without losing a single coin. In psychology, there is a concept called the emotional boomerang effect. When you are endlessly kind to someone in a one-sided way, instead of gratitude, they begin to see it as normal. Over time, they grow numb, cold, and increasingly demanding. They will drain you dry without a trace of mercy. If you realize that you have fallen into emotional traps, been blinded by obligation, and been drained to the bone by trying to be a good person, then it is time to dissect the true nature of the human heart. And then you will understand why kindness must have teeth, why righteousness is not meant for those without boundaries, and why knowing how to refuse, how to be cold at times, is sometimes the kindest act you can give yourself. Do not let yourself be wounded by excessive kindness.